Wasting money on cures. Forgot how to fix myself. They say that time is free. Then why is it so precious? Oh, I'll say memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. Time is running out. Time is running out. Lately I've lost my track. I've sailed the deepest seas, hoping to find something to bring back better times. Oh, I'll say memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. But time is running out. 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 Time is running. Time is running out. Time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over. They can't be over now. Time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over now. Time is running out. Time is running out. Time is running out.
Afternoon all, welcome to this first in a series of new live streams to help learners get ready for the next edition of BTEC National Business Unit 2. Apologies for the technical gremlins there, we had to reboot the entire studio. We're up and running. This session is probably going to be the longest of the 5 sessions we're running ahead of the Unit 2 exam next week, and it's really diving into perhaps the starting point for Unit 2, which is to get into that research pack, find out what the industry, what the business is that we're looking at when we finally get around to doing Part B and trying to earn as many of those 70 marks as possible. So in terms of this session, let's take a quick look at what we're going to cover. Don't forget all of these sessions are recorded, and once they're recorded, we'll add a timestamp so you can go in between the different activities as you wish. We're going to take a look at a research pack. I've written one for this or for these sessions on a beauty salon business called Shine Beauty. Just an example case study. We'll take a look at what the examiner said in terms of how to maximize your marks for using the research pack. Assessment focus 3 is our focus today. And we'll also consider what you can and can't include in your 2 sides of A4 notes. It's an important part of the first part of taking Unit 2. And then do a couple of worked examples using the Shine Beauty case study just to show you one way, not the only way, but one way of demonstrating how to pick up those marks. So that's what we're going to cover. Any questions, any comments about Unit 2, please add them into the live stream. I'll try and take a look at those and respond to those as we go. Quick reminder, if you're not already familiar, or perhaps you've got, that Unit 2 is split into 2 parts, Part A and Part B. Part A is all about your first sight of the business, the market, the research pack, and that is a minimum of 2 hours. It's low control. You can take longer than that if you wish, and also you can take the notes away, take your research pack away and annotate them, do your own research in between the afternoon and the following morning. Now, some schools and colleges, if they have really large numbers taking Unit 2, say, well, sorry, no, you can't take your notes away. Anyway, that's their decision, but you are allowed to if you wish. So it's all about understanding and getting into that research pack before part B. Part B is where you learn much more about the business. It's the most important bit. And then you get into writing 2 documents. Activity 1, which is your rationale, 34 marks going. Activity 2 is a marketing plan, a marketing mix and a marketing plan. Matthew's asking, are we given the structure in the exam? No, you're just given the 2 activities to complete. And more importantly, in part B, you're given more information about the business that you will hopefully use as you construct your 2 documents. But the whole idea of this session and subsequent sessions is to give you an example of possible structures you could use to really help you maximize those marks. Now, how many marks are available? 70 is the marks available, maximum of 70. And well, last time the average mark for the students who sat it was just over 30. So that's just over the pass mark. So learners not doing quite as well as they have done, for example, in Unit 3 and Unit 6. So it's a challenging exam. The mark scheme always has, each of the 8 assessment focuses has 4 mark bands, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 3 and 4 being the largest or the highest, toughest mark band. And if you were to get an average score in the middle of mark band 3, you get 49.5 marks, which will be well over a merit. So if we can aim to get mark band 3 for each of our assessment foci, then we are definitely in merit territory, and maybe a little bit more, and you're in distinction territory. So that's what these sessions are all about. Now, here are those marks. Here's how the 70 marks get split up. Today, we're going to focus on AF3, the 12 marks, and we're doing that first because that's the first thing you do. You see the research pack. But don't forget lots of other marks going, and in particular, the session we do on the marketing mix is where most marks are being lost, 20 marks for that going in activity 2. Well, we'll come back to those later. Now, as with all of these sessions, we always break down the mark scheme because the most important thing is to give the examiner what she or he is looking for. And we should be encouraging you, and I think you should be aiming to try to get into mark band 3 and even better, mark band 4. So I've just highlighted on the screen there. And don't forget, you can download this PowerPoint at the end of the session if you wish to. What is it that gets to a mark band, well, in this case, 4, 10 or 12, 10, 11 or 12 out of 12? Well, the answer is for AF3, it's not just one bit of Activity 1. It's throughout Activity 1 and Activity 2, sustained references to the case study, to the research pack, to the market, to competitors, and then most importantly, interpreting that research, commenting on the usefulness, the reliability of the research that you've been given, and then using that to build your analysis, to support your aims and objectives, to support your marketing plan, and also to provide balanced conclusions. So perhaps, for example, in balance, talking about where maybe the research could be improved, or where you might need some better information. So hopefully that will be useful to you as we go through this session. Now let's dive into the research pack. We're going to take a look for 5 or 10 minutes at the Shine Beauty business, not spend a lot of time on it, but let's look at the research pack. This is what the 6th sitting of Unit 2, where there has been a pre-released research pack, and they all tend to follow a similar format. Firstly, you'll be given some secondary research, typically 2.5, 3 pages, maybe, and I'll go through what that includes. You'll be given some primary research, so that's typically a made-up survey that is useful, but helps tell you something about what potentially customers of the product or market are looking for. And then also they give you like a shopping list of media. Let's just go through that in a little bit more detail before we dive in to Shine Beauty. The secondary research will be at the start. So you'll get to see this in the research pack in part A. It will be a couple of pages giving you an introduction to the market. What is the product? What is the market? Are there any key trends in the market? And then it will get into details of what kind of products or services, goods or services, are sold in the market, typically what kind of prices. And then also you'll get some information usually on typical marketing approaches, maybe some of the largest competitors or brands in the business. In other words, quite a useful overview of the market in which the case study business is operating. Now in part A, you don't get a lot of information about the business, but the secondary research in the research pack is really useful because we'll be able to compare and contrast that with the information we get about the business in part B. And that's a great way of demonstrating application in Unit 2. Primary research, well, we mentioned it's a made-up research report. So it will be made up. And it'll typically have some information on the sample size, where the sample was taken, who was asked, and usually 3 or 4 questions, survey questions with some answers. Really useful because it helps us perhaps get some information to help, firstly, assess our marketing aims and objectives, but also then to build our marketing campaign and to then feed that primary research into our marketing mix. So as we go through these sessions, and maybe you've already had to go doing it on case studies, the primary research, there's 2 tasks really. One is to say to the examiner whether you think it's useful, reliable, valid. That's really important. But secondly, make sure you make selected use of the primary research to help justify and support your chosen objectives, your chosen marketing mix, and also, of course, your chosen campaign. Excellent. Okay. So, and finally, someone's mentioned my collars uneven. Well, I've dressed very quickly today. I won't go into why. Is that better? So, thirdly, our media selection. This is like a shopping list of all the different types of marketing campaign that we might use when we come to write our activity 2. You don't have to use any or all of it. You can make up your own marketing research, but it's marketing media, but it's a useful shopping list of some of the things that you might want to use when it comes to putting together your budgeted plan and your timetable. Anyway, that's what's in the research pack. Shall we have a quick dive into, so I've just quickly put on screen now, I know you can't see it, but don't worry, hopefully I've got a window, if the system's working, where we can literally scroll through some aspects of our Shine Beauty. Casey, as I mentioned, the research pack will have the secondary research first, 2 or 3 pages, and then gets into that made up primary research. Hopefully, if I press this button, hopefully, our Shine Beauty case study. By the way, you can download that from the link in the live stream. We'll also make sure it's added to the comments later. Our Shine Beauty case study is there on the screen. And if I scroll down a little bit, let's get it into a bit that's going to be useful. Don't forget, when you get into part A, next week in the afternoon, you'll be given some instructions. You won't be given part B, though. And that's the really useful stuff. But you will be given the research pack. So let's have a look at what our Shine Beauty research pack says. So the key thing about this is it could be anything, couldn't it? It could be a business making goods like dog food or chocolate bars or whatever. Or it could be a service. We've had some service businesses over the years. I think the last one was a skating park. So, and of course, some businesses also provide goods and provide services. Now, in this case, Shine Beauty is a beauty salon. So basically, it provides services. However, of course, it probably also sells beauty products like lotions and whatever. So you might also argue that it's also selling goods. Now, the key thing with the secondary research is to look through it and think, well, how might I use this to help inform my justification, AF4? So, for example, my pestle analysis or my SWOT analysis or my product life cycle. But also, we're going to be able to use this and compare and contrast the business that we get to learn about more in part B. Let's just highlight a few bits and bobs. Now, when you get your research pack, you can highlight, you can annotate, you can do what you like on it, it's yours. The only thing you're not allowed to write on it is any kind of pre-prepared marketing plan or budget or timetable, but you can annotate, you can write on it. So what have we got here? It's a beauty salon where customers receive beauty treatments. There we go. And can buy beauty products such as cosmetics. Now, here's a really useful piece of information. You'll often find this comes first. Let's highlight that, shall we? The beauty salon market is worth 4.4 billion per year. So there's some information about market size. We could use that when we set our marketing objectives. There are over 16,000 beauty salons. Okay, that suggests that it's quite a fragmented market. The market is forecast to grow at around 1.5% per year over the next few years. That's really useful information. Market growth. So we might be able to use that perhaps if we were looking at, for example, our SWOT analysis or our product life cycle, if we decide to use that model. And we're told some more here. The market is highly fragmented. Let's highlight that. With most businesses being small independent salons often run by sole traders. There are some large chains of beauty salons. Therapy Clinic, not been there. Champneys, not been there. Bliss, not been. In fact, I've not been to any of them, as you can probably tell. So there are some large chains, but what we're not told there is what their market shares are. But anyway, on we go. Don't forget, you get all of this information in part B as well. So you get a clean copy of the research pack. So the number of customers served per day varies depending on the size of the location. A small salon may serve up to 20 customers a day. Useful information. A large one might be 100 customers per day. The average turnover of a beauty salon is estimated to be around 250,000 per year. So most of them are pretty small businesses, aren't they? So we might be able to compare and contrast that with our Shine Beauty information, which we find out in part B. Larger salons have revenues much higher than this, particularly those operating in busy locations and those offer new and more expensive treatments. Someone's pointing out that I don't have any hair, so I won't be qualifying for the hair treatments. I'm sure there's something a beauty salon could do for me, but let's not go there. Now, often the research pack will set the scene. It'll tell you about the market. It'll tell you about the market size, and then it'll start to talk about factors that influence demand. And indeed, this is what Shine Beauty does. So demand is influenced by factors such as social trends, economic conditions, and new treatments and technologies. Social trends show a growing demand for pampering and luxury treatments. So I'm immediately highlighting that, and you might want to put maybe O for opportunities. I'm thinking that could be one of my key themes in my opportunities in my SWOT analysis. So if Shine Beauty is offering luxury beauty treatments, that might be an opportunity for them. Similarly, it might be that they're not offering it, in which case it's a threat unless they do so. Economic conditions. So a bit about, if we're thinking pestle, economic conditions, that also impacts the demand for salon services. Disposable incomes and consumer confidences are key. So that might be an interesting thing, isn't it? If we're going through an economic downturn, maybe that's going to make beauty salons struggle. Beauty salons are large users of water and energy, and consequently have seen their costs rise significantly as utility charges have increased sharply. So that's an issue, isn't it? Constantly heating the water, heating the salon, running the machines. Many salons have chosen to absorb these cost increases. Let's highlight that, rather than pass them on to customers. That's interesting, isn't it? So potentially their profit margins are lower. And there's a decision that we might have to consider when we consider price in our marketing mix. Because if we bring that in to our analysis of the marketing mix, that is using the case study, AF3. Many consumer businesses like beauty salons have been affected by changes in minimum wages. Most salon staff are actually well paid, not necessarily paid poorly. Some salons offer commission-based structure. So this is linking nicely, isn't it, to our other units, which means that staff have an incentive to sell cosmetics. So it could be that we could think about that. Maybe think about how we might structure the incentives for staff to sell cosmetic products. So we've already there's our first page. We've already highlighted 2 or 3 things in. We're 5 minutes in. We've got a minimum of 2 hours to look through all of this stuff when we do part A. What else have we got? Anything else here interesting? 9 out of 10 beauty salons are owned and operated by women. Okay. The most common demographics are women aged between 18 and 45. Okay, so there's our targeting. There's potentially our segmentation. Whilst most customers are women, there's an increasing trend of men using salons, particularly in larger cities. Men often opt for services such as waxing, facials, manicures, and pedicures. I bet they do. Celebrities visit salons for special treatments and to maintain their appearance. Older adults use salon services to help improve their skin quality and reduce the signs of aging. There we go. So some useful buying signs there. So that's useful stuff, isn't it? Now, of course, what we don't know is what the customer profile of Shine Beauty is. We find that out when we get part B. But can you see how in the secondary research, we need to be highlighting things to think, well, we want to be able to compare that with the case study business, because by doing so, that's going to help us pick up the AF3 marks. Location is really important to success of salon. Salons located on high streets are successful. Salons located in residential areas aren't as visible, but might have a more local, loyal customer base. This is interesting. So if we're thinking about our pestle analysis, AF4, lots of marks going for that. A recent trend, so a social trend, has seen increasing customer use of at-home beauty services as an alternative to visiting the salon. So, and that's also relevant to our marketing mix, isn't it? If we think about P, place or distribution, the place where these salon services are sold, that sounds like that might be changing. Could that be something we can address? Moving quickly on, there's a bit there about the different methods of promotion. So these are going to be really useful when it comes to considering our promotional mix. Just whilst we do that, picking up a couple of questions coming in. CFC and how did Chelsea get on at the weekend? Can't remember. How many hours do we spend reading Part A? Well, you've got a minimum of 2 hours. We spent 10 minutes now looking at it. You've got a minimum of 2 hours, but you can take it away with you and look at it all night long if you wish. Do internet research on the market. You can do what you like, but a minimum of 2 hours to look at Part A. So let's look at methods of promotion here. The main methods are word of mouth. So friends recommending about the salon services. Social media, that's good news. Almost certainly going to be using some social media campaigns, aren't we? Particularly if we can target them at particular demographics or target them at particular locations. So we'll look at that when we look at our promotional mix later in the sessions. Advertising, lots of opportunity to advertise, perhaps in media such as free magazines, that kind of stuff. Special offers, all kinds of opportunities there. And events. Salons may use events. So there are lots and lots. It's a great case study to have with lots and lots of different ways that you might put your promotional campaign together. No shortage of different, a nice variety of different methods of promotion. What else have we got here? Yeah, and this is, do you remember I said that the secondary research is likely to include some details of pricing and different products? Now, the reason why this is put into Part A is because it will enable you, I guarantee you'll be able to compare the prices of either competitors or typical industry prices with the case study business. And in this case, I know that in Part B, because I've written Part B already, they provide some information that enables you to compare the prices of the case study business with the typical industry prices. So according to the UK Beauty Industry Report, that sounds like you might comment and say, well, that's good. That's a recent report, so that's more valid, more reliable. The average spend at a beauty salon is £40 per visit, and the popular treatments range from £10 to £100. So, with some treatments such as laser hair removal costing significantly more, it would. Yeah, I suppose it would. I guess it's time based as well, isn't it? As well as the specialist equipment being used. What else? Other factors that affect the price are the experience and reputation and the qualifications of the therapist. You'd hope that the therapists are qualified, but clearly some might not be. And also where the salon is, because, for example, it might be in the middle of a shopping centre that maybe has higher rents, therefore your prices are higher. And we've got some information of typical prices there, and there we go. And here we go. So in recent years, many salons have started offering new treatments, so product innovation, laser hair removal, Botox, cool sculpting, which sounds like the kind of thing I need, and cryotherapy to reduce inflammation. There we go. And finally, you'll be pleased to hear the last part of this secondary research is a bit of information that's put in there deliberately put in to help you put together your pestle analysis and also potentially your SWOT analysis. So some information about how salons are regulated, the importance of quality, some of the risks in terms of the procedures that they're doing, deliberately put in to sort of ensure that you pick up some of that information if, for example, you're thinking about the legal environment in your pestle analysis. So hopefully some useful, and I've not highlighted it all there, but I mean, you could just do what some people do, literally highlight the whole thing. That's probably not a good idea. But anyway, if you wish to do that, you can. So you can see it's 2.5 pages, isn't it? Secondary research, lots of useful information in there, I would say. Now, let's go back to our secondary research. Let's move on to the primary research. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but let's go to it. Just to show you, let's go back to this one here. Here's our primary research. This is typical of the kind of thing that you'll get when you look at Part A. So there'll be a made-up market research report, and it'll give you some information about the sample size, the date it was taken, where it was taken, who were asked, and you can nearly always draw some useful information about the reliability and the validity. So I'll leave it up to you to download that and have a look at it. It basically suggests that there's a lot of opportunity, particularly if salons can build a reputation for quality and use things like discounts and special events to help encourage customers to try new treatments. For example, that table there, it says, imagine you were given a gift voucher of £250 to spend at a salon. What factors would you consider the most important when choosing which salon to spend it at? Reputation, customer reviews, cleanliness, perhaps more important in this case than location. Reasons why you don't go to beauty salons. So lots of useful information. You're not expected to use it all, but if you can drip some of that into your marketing aims and objectives, into your research section in activity 1, and most importantly, use that to support your marketing mix and marketing plan and campaign in activity 2, that is going to really get the examiner pleased. And what the examiners are interestingly they're saying is that students are spending probably too long using the secondary research and not adding enough of the primary research. So the more you can use the primary research, just taking some elements of it, that's going to put you in good stead. Don't need to use it all, just use a bit. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so now just before we take a look at a worked example and also some thoughts on the A4 notes, just wanted to pick out what the examiner has been saying in the last couple of sittings about the research pack and about where students can gain more marks out of those 12. So don't forget, there's 12 going for use of the research. That's not just one little bit of one activity, it's throughout the 2 activities, but the average mark is 6. So there's 6 marks being lost there. In fact, it's just under 6. So we need to try and capture as many of these marks as possible. And here's what the examiner's saying. Firstly, too many learners or students need to, too many students are just rewriting the research pack, just copying it all out. That's not what the research pack's there for. The key is to pick out key themes, little nuggets, little gold nuggets, not just write the whole thing out again. You're wasting your time writing it all out. So try to pick out the key themes and then develop them. Don't just rewrite the whole thing, because that's not using the research pack. Next, too many learners are just making simple statements based on the research and not explaining it. So they might say, the primary research is not valid or reliable. Well, why? So how and why? Give me 1 or 2 reasons why you've got a concern about it. How could it be improved? That will be developing your response. That will be expanding on it. They might just say, the secondary research suggests that Shine Beauty's products are priced too low. Well, where? How do you get to that? How do you get to that view? So give me some evidence. Give me some evidence to what the industry average is. Give me some evidence from Shine Beauty and explain why there's a difference. So that's important, isn't it? Not just making statements, try to back them up with the research. And also, a positive note, the students who scored highest are the ones that try to pick out the key themes from the research. Yeah. So they don't rewrite the whole thing. They just pick out little 2 or 3 bits and use them to help develop points rather than thinking, I need to use all of this research pack throughout my answer. Okay, good stuff. Right. Now, before we just finish off this session with a worked example, I just wanted to go through these 2 sides of A4 notes. A number of people have asked in the live chat about the notes. And in fact, there's a question coming in here. I'm not sure that I can add this to the screen. Let's see whether we can or not. There we go. The honoured one. Stick it on the screen there. If we have the research pack and we can annotate, and all the information we need is in there, what's the point of the A4 pages? Well, you don't have to use A4 pages. However, there are some things that you're allowed to include in the A4 notes that might be useful to you, particularly when it comes to producing your 2 documents under pressure, which is why I've come up with a template which is permitted. So that's the point, really. Also, it's quite a useful way of just drawing out some key information from the research pack, maybe in a more accessible way. But you don't have to use two sides of notes if you don't want to. So what can you use? Well, you can basically do anything you like. except let's go right to the bottom of the screen. You're not allowed to use the pages note to pre-prepare a marketing plan, a marketing budget, or a timeline, a campaign timeline. So, but why would you? Because you can't prepare a marketing plan, budget, or timeline until you find out, firstly, what the options are that you need to choose from, and secondly, find out about the business. And you find out all of those things in Part B. There is nothing in Part A in the research pack that will help you pre-prepare a marketing plan, budget, or timeline, because it will be a useless marketing plan, budget, or timeline because it's not related to the business. So that's fine, just don't do it. There's no point doing it. However, there are lots of things that you can use in your A4 notes. For example, you can pick out some of the key facts and figures that you want to remember. Of course, you could highlight them, but it's worth putting them down. You can put some reminders of the theories and concepts. For example, what PESTLE stands for. Absolutely fine. And a person of extent, yeah, it's absolutely fine to note down what each of the letters of PESTLE or SWOT or product lifecycle stands for. You can have a summary of some what's meant by a marketing message and factors to consider when deciding on different promotional materials. You can include in your 2 pages of notes the subheadings and headlines that you want to include in both your 2 reports or documents. All of that is fine. Headings, subheadings, aid memoirs, information, analysis of the numbers, percentage changes, all that kind of stuff. That is all absolutely fine. I don't believe anyone who says that it's not fine, because it is. The only thing you're not allowed to include, according to the Pearson Admin Delivery Guide, is pre-prepared marketing plans, budgets, or timelines. Everything else is absolutely fine. So, with that in mind, let's just quickly check the live chat there. Scroon and Prune, interesting name, says, will the examiners check our A4 notes? Yeah. Let's just put that on the screen, shall we, as well? Yeah, you should find that your supervisors, whoever's invigilating the session, will look at your A4 notes to make sure that they don't include any pre-prepared marketing plans, budgets, or timelines. So just don't do it, because there's no point doing it anyway. But yes, they should check them. So that's fine, isn't it? What else have we got here? People asking the same thing. There we go. All good. Right. So the question is, well, what if you decide to use your 2 sides of notes, what to include? Well, I came up with a template that seems to work quite well, but there are lots of others out there. So you don't have to use mine. So here's mine, and I'll stick it on screen. The first page. And basically, it's just trying to think about the business. What do we learn in the secondary and primary research? What do we think might be useful when we find out more in Part B? So I've just copied the first 2 or 3 bits of it. Now, there is a link to download my 2-side of notes A4, which is on the on the description to each of our videos. I'll make sure it's linked on the comments as well. Just an example, not the only way to do it, but what I want to do is just quickly go through an example, and then I'll finish off with a worked example of how to include, or what you're required to include in activity 1 on the research. So the first series of questions tries to get you thinking about, well, what's the product? What is it? Is it a physical product? Is it a good? Is it a service? Well, in this case, it's a beauty salon. So it's services such as Botox, nails, waxing, hair removal. And it's most importantly, it's a service by skilled, qualified, trained staff. So I just wanted to note that down, because I think that's going to be really useful when it comes to writing my extended marketing mix. The product and the people, my extended marketing mix, really important, isn't it, to focus on that. Who are the customers? Well, we're told it's mainly women aged 18 to 45, not exclusively, but interestingly, men are increasingly using the service, so that might be a growth segment we could target. How much do customers pay? Well, we were given some information. It's between £10 and £100 per traditional treatment, but there are some more specialist treatments that are priced much higher. So it could be, if we moved into those specialist treatments, we might be able to achieve a much higher average selling price per visit. When and where is it bought? Well, in the salon. Book ahead, pop in 2 or 3 hours. Typically located in towns, cities, shopping centres, but also we also picked out, didn't we, that home provided services, at-home services, increasingly popular. So that's relevant to place distribution. So it's just an aid memoir, isn't it? Just making sure you thought about the key issues. And then about the market, how large is it? We're told it's 4.4 billion. Is it growing? Yes, about 1.5%. But it's fragmented. There are 16,000 salons. So that 4.4 billion market is split into many, many different competitors. What are the main segments? Now, in this case, I think demographics comes into play, doesn't it? In terms of gender and age. So focusing on, well, it's dominated. The female segment of a certain age is the main segment. But you might also segment it by how services are delivered. We're not told the size of the different segments though. So you might include a note to say the secondary research is limited because it doesn't tell us the size of the segments. And that's a good way of showing some balance. The market's growing 1.5, but it sounds like within that market, there's some products that are growing faster, such as specialist treatments. How important is product innovation and branding? Well, it's important if you are innovating with new treatments, isn't it? And possibly you could differentiate compared with competitors, but I'm not sure in this market branding is that important, and that's actually supported by the primary research, where it's more about sort of reputation, customer service, rather than going to a particular brand, seems to me. So I suspect it's not as important in this market, but you might have a different view. Let's go through who are the largest competitors. Well, we're not told the market shares. Again, is that a weakness? We're told 2 or 3 of the bigger groups, but we're not told how big they are. So that suggests that there isn't really 1 or 2 dominant brands or competitors in the market, which is possibly good news for Shine Beauty. But if there are market leaders, what advantages do they have? Well, possibly Champneys or whoever. They might get marketing economies of scale because they're able to advertise, and let's say they've got 50 locations. Their marketing should benefit all 50. They may be able to buy marketing media such as TV advertising or radio advertising at a cheaper price because of their scale. Possibly, we don't know. But at this stage, it doesn't look like this market is dominated by large players. But can you see how on this first page of the notes, we're just drawing out some of the key things to think about when it comes to our marketing mix. And I've also included at the bottom of the first page to say, well, what's good news and what's bad news for the business? Because I think these are the key themes that we can then develop throughout our 2 reports. So positive points for the business. Just reading through the research, I think it sounds like reputation and customer reviews are really important when customers choose their salon. And therefore, in terms of our marketing mix, communicating that message, the marketing message is going to be really important, isn't it? All about our skill, our expertise. That sounds like that's going to be a really important part of the marketing message. The market is growing, so that's good news for the business. What about some negative points? Well, we're told that the secondary research, there's an increasing trend for at-home beauty services. Okay. So that sounds like could be a threat, couldn't it, in our SWOT analysis? But it could also be an opportunity for Shine to get into if they're able to develop that kind of service. And also, they don't appear to have any presence in the big shopping centres, the Trafford Centre, where we take our BTEC workshops. An amazing place, packed full of salons and pop-up beauty products and all kinds of stuff, but it sounds like Shine don't have a centre there. So could that be an opportunity? Is it a threat? So all we're doing is we're just drawing out the key points from the research pack, and we want to use those throughout our documents. Okay. Question coming in here about the research pack. Let's put it on. If the secondary research doesn't include a section like competitors, do you mention that in the evaluation of reliability and validity? Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Just say, look, for whatever reason, the secondary research doesn't have any kind of competitor analysis. I think that's unlikely. Every pack there's been so far, there's been something about competitors. However, it might be that you're not told much or enough about them. So maybe include a little bit of extra detail. Say it would be useful to know the market shares. For example, if they don't give you the market shares of the leading players, why would that be useful? Well, it might help to determine, help support your strengths and weaknesses in your SWOT analysis. So absolutely no reason at all why you can't comment on the key findings from the research. What else have we got here? Just going through the live chat to see if there's any more specific questions. As he's saying, will you go over making notes the night before? Yeah, well, we're doing a live warm up, aren't we? Before, on the Monday, before part A. So we'll go through this again, but just focus on the technique. Good stuff. Right. So last bit. So what have we done so far? We've talked about the structure. We've talked about the research pack, what to expect in it. We've talked about these 2 pages of notes where you can write anything you like, as long as it's not pre-prepared marketing plans, campaign budgets or timelines. But also don't forget, you are required in activity 1 to comment on the research. Can't just ignore it. So you need to have a heading there that says secondary and primary research. And what you're required to do here is really draw out 2 or 3 key themes and comment on the primary research. So I just wanted to show a little example of that in terms of what I would write in my activity 1. What I would do is I just have a heading that says key themes or key issues and themes from the research. Next heading, secondary research. And I just say the key themes from the secondary research and how they affect our campaign are summarized below. And I just pick out 2 key themes. Don't go over the top. There's only 12 marks going for this, and it's also about how you use the pack throughout the exam. So just pick out the key themes and explain how they link. So here's our first one. A key theme is there's growing demand for pampering and luxury treatment. So I think that comes through from the secondary research. This is good news for Shine. So, and it's based on both the secondary and the primary research. Growing demand for people to pamper themselves and to get luxury specialist treatments. And that's an opportunity, isn't it, for the campaign? And in particular, perhaps to use salon events to demonstrate to customers what these treatments are about, such as cryotherapy, and then to use a marketing message that is all about pamper yourself, reward yourself, gift some treatments for yourself. The message might be focused around that. Then that links into the marketing campaign where the promotions are all about trying to encourage customers to sign up for a trial. Come and take a look, have a go, see what you think. Because as soon as you've got the customer there in the salon, it's a lot easier to explain the treatment and explain the benefits, demonstrate the capability, and perhaps also get them to sign up for maybe a complete schedule of those treatments. So I think that's good news. So in other words, that's a key theme, isn't it? We've just drawn that out from the research, and you might have another key theme which is different. It might be a key theme is the pricing is an issue in the marketplace or whatever it is. Okay, so that's secondary research. Also, don't forget you have to have something in there in activity 1 on the primary research. You have to have it. So 2 things to do here. One is there needs to be some comment on the appropriateness and the reliability, in particular, of the primary research. So the way to do this is to be balanced, to say it's useful in some respects, but perhaps in some other respects, it's not that useful. That's what we look for. So yeah, people asking about when exam. My understanding is part A is on Tuesday next week. So we're going to do a session on Monday night. Part B is on the Wednesday morning when you get to see more about the business. Okay, so what I would say is I'd have a heading, appropriateness and reliability of the primary research. Be explicit to the examiner saying, I'm now going to address this because it's in the, remember it was in the mark scheme, wasn't it? So the primary research in the research pack is useful. However, it has some limitations. So what are those limitations? Well, I said the main limitation is that it was conducted only in Manchester, in the Trafford Centre, whereas Shine, we're already told, operates in a wider area, 4 towns in Cheshire. So it could be, then we just need to develop that a little bit more fully. Don't just state it, explain it in a sentence or 2. So I said, well, there may be local market differences. Customers from a wider geographical area might have different purchasing behaviours, different motivations from those who go to the Trafford Centre. There might be, for example, a different segment different demographics to Shine's existing customer base. So that's a limitation. And also, it could have been improved in more questions, I think, about whether you'd be prepared to pay for innovative treatments. I think those are a couple of limitations on the primary research. You don't have to pull it apart. A sentence or two, how and why is the primary research limited in terms of its appropriateness and reliability and validity is all you need. However, make sure you're balanced. Balance is what it's all about. So I would say in other respects, the primary research is really useful and helpful. So we've got some balance, haven't we? So for example, the primary research has a large sample, 1,000 customers, consumers. That's quite a large sample size. A large sample size in general should result in more valid and reliable results. It's conducted in a major shopping centre. So it's going to give us a really useful insight into quite a broad range of potential customers. The Trafford Centre, if you've ever been, amazing place. The people who go there tend to be spending money, and therefore it's 1,000 people who are in buying mode, aren't they? So that might be an opportunity to use the findings to say, well, actually, there's a broader audience here compared with our existing customer base. That's going to be really useful if our marketing campaign is focused on trying to reach new customers rather than just the same type of customers. So what I'm saying is just make sure you've got a couple of paragraphs that talk about the primary research, why it's useful and why it's not. Then you've addressed that issue, haven't you, of appropriateness and reliability. Chris is saying, are you allowed to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of primary research? All day long. That's what we're doing, isn't it? That's exactly what you're allowed to do. In fact, the MARC scheme says, please do it. So there we go. Yeah, so somebody's asking about, we'll come back to some questions around structure. Let's just put the Zazzies on there. Been asked by a number of people. Did you just say we do part A and part B on 2 different days? Correct. So next Tuesday afternoon, if you're taking it, I think it's Tuesday afternoon, you'll have a couple of hours looking at part A. That's the research pack. Take it away, write your notes. The following morning, that's when you do part B, which is when you produce your two documents. So yeah, it's split over 2 days. One afternoon followed by the morning. Good stuff. Right. Well, apologies for the late start on this one. And I've got about 20 minutes before we do our next session, just looking at aims and objectives. But I wanted to get into the research pack to start with, get into Shine Beauty. Let's just summarize the key points here. Firstly, part A, which is on a separate day, it's in the afternoon. You have got loads of time to read the research pack. 2 hours minimum. You can take it away with you and continue to read it. That's a minimum of 2 hours. That's plenty of time. So don't forget, there's 3 parts to it. There's the secondary research, 2 or 3 pages about the market. There's some primary research, which is a couple of pages of a made-up survey. And the third part is some marketing media, some things that you could possibly consider using when you put your marketing budget together. We'll have a look at that when we look at putting the campaign together later in the week. So plenty of time. The key with part A is to draw out the key information, to become familiar with the business and start to think about the issues before you find out more about the business when you actually see the exam paper in part B. So think about the key themes, think about the key issues, and use your 2 pages of notes to draw those out. What you don't want to be doing is going into the exam and just copying the research pack into your 2 documents. That's a waste of time. So the more time you spend thinking about some of the key issues are, what the key themes are, how you might be able to use it for SWOT or PESTLE or product lifecycle, which we'll do tomorrow afternoon, that's the best use of the time. In terms of AF3, the 12 marks, you need a section about the research in activity 1. But more importantly, you also need to make consistent, relevant uses of the research pack and the case study and other information given to you throughout both. So you keep on using it to season your campaign and your marketing mix. Keep referring to the research pack That is the way to get up to mark band 4, 10 to 12 marks out of 12. And don't forget, the average is just under 6. So most students are not making the best use of the research pack. Couple of, let's just go back here and let's put a couple of questions on the screen. Oh, I'll tell you what, let me go back here and put that on the screen. What do we research ourselves if we've got so much from the pack? You don't have to use any research yourself, Karen, if you don't want to. There's no need to do any further research if you don't want to. You can if you wish. You don't need to. Everything, in theory, everything is in there that you need. But some students like to do a bit of extra research or just maybe have a look at some of the products and services in the market overnight, but you don't have to. Any more questions whilst we just go through this? Kai's asking, what might the stage of the market mean for the marketing campaigns? Well, I think we'll look at this tomorrow when we look at justification. For example, if you're looking at product lifecycle, it could be that if the market is in a maturity phase or even a decline phase, then that has implications, doesn't it, for marketing campaign? If it's in growth phase, that has different implications. We'll go through that tomorrow when we look at AF4. Yeah, Matthew's pointing out during the actual exam, you can't use the internet. So part B is medium control, no access to online. Part A is low control, so you can use the internet. Matthew's saying, can you write the structure of the exam on the given A4 piece of paper to take into the exam? Yes, you can. Excuse me, my headphones are falling off. So yeah, you can write down your headings, reminders, all kinds of stuff on your A4 piece of paper. And that's not a bad idea, actually. Just an aid memoir of some of the headings that you'd like to think about using. The only thing you're not allowed to include are any pre-prepared marketing plans, campaigns, or timelines. So don't try to write a marketing plan out or a marketing mix because you'll get your A4 notes ripped up. What else have we got here? Can you write ready-made sentences and notes? Well, you can if you want, but they're no use to you. So I wouldn't, but you can if you wish, as long as it's not a pre-prepared marketing plan. Any more questions? Question coming in from Mr. Gamer. It's easier to do product lifecycle and pestle. I totally agree with that. Totally agree with it. It is. So we'll go through that tomorrow. You don't have to use product lifecycle. We'll go through that tomorrow in our session on AF4 justification. But as you may know, I'm a big fan of the product lifecycle because I think it's a really good model and it saves you a lot of time. What else have we got here? Saying what websites and things are we not allowed to use during part B? Well, you're not allowed to use any websites or anything. The only thing you're allowed to use is your 2 pages of A4 notes and your new copy of the research pack. So you can't be online. Ladita says, I hope we can't use certain websites during part A. Well, I'm not sure what those websites are, but there's no, if you look at the admin guide, the teacher delivery guide, it doesn't mention that at all. It's low control. The internet is permitted. So that's, if you've had that advice, it's nonsense. But not that any other particular website are particularly useful for you. Okay, here we go. I think we're just about there. I think we're just about there on questions. I think we are. Right, okay. That's our first session. I wanted to spend a bit of time on the research pack and on AF3 because I think it gets us into Shine Beauty. Next session coming up, hopefully bang on time at 5 o'clock, is going to be on aims and objectives. It'll be about a 20-minute session. 8 marks going for that. Hopefully you found it useful. Don't forget, all of these sessions are recorded. The links to the PowerPoint and to the downloads of the case study, the downloads of the A4 notes will be in the description of each video on YouTube. Spread the word. If you can stand doing another 20 minutes of this today, join me shortly. But for now, I'll say see you later. Cheers.